This is Shanei, Alejandro, and CJ from the Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business team. And we welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and H.E.R Network on Singo TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Singo TV app and the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. And while you download, make sure that you rate the app and leave a comment. The app is totally free, and Singo TV is also available on the Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, and Roku Sticks, and also on the smart TVs 2016 forward. Hello, everyone. We are happy to host you.
Thank you, Shanei. I believe you are going to start to be doing this presentation. It's much better than me.
I have no problem with that. We have Greg here today, and we are so privileged to be able to have a conversation with you today. And Alejandro, you're welcome to take over from here.
Yes, Greg, thank you for accepting this invitation. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is a conversation with everyone. And if you are having any questions, any comments in regards of anything that we are talking, you are more than welcome to write in the chat and leave us your comments. And we are going to be talking about that also. Just to let you know, we are having our challenge. Business challenge that we're going to be working on in 2 weeks, starting in April 25th. And if you want to register, just go to businessbelieve.com. And we are going to send also the details for that. But thank you for connecting with us today. And Greg, this show is about how you started to believe in yourself, what happened before you started to believe in yourself. I know that you are going to be sharing with us some amazing project that you are doing right now. But before that, I would love to start to know who is Greg, from where are you coming, when you started to understand, okay, I want to become this person, even before you started to be an entrepreneur or something like that, even in corporate. Who was Greg? So we start to have that feeling of where are you coming from.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be among you, and if I can help with helping other people understand what I'm doing and maybe in their lives, I'd be honored. I started off as just a kid on Long Island, and I found I had I was pretty smart, and I had some talent as an athlete, and I competed at a very high level in a couple of sports as I was growing up. And one of those sports ended up getting me recruited to some nice colleges. Ended up going to the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then I was there for fencing. And that's a sort of a rare sport that you don't really know that people are fencers unless you see them at a fencing strip. It's not like they're walking around with, football gear, or that they're, a boxer or something like that. And you can tell what they do. Fencers are all different shapes and sizes, and the only way you know they're fencers if they're at the fencing club or strip or in a competition. And so you feel like you're one of maybe very, very few people who play the sport. I found the same thing with other sports that I played. It's not like baseball, basketball, football, hockey, where everybody's supposed to be playing it. You see it on TV every day, and not so much in other countries, but here in the United States, it's pretty much a oligopoly. It's either baseball, basketball, football, hockey. Every 4 years, you see the Olympic sports, and it's sort of frustrating playing the other sports. And you do feel like you're sort of an orphan. So that's how it was when I got to college, and ended up hurting myself my first year in school, and really badly. My three bottom vertebrae separated, and I couldn't fence anymore. So that sort of put me in a depression, and I was wondering what I could do, and what about all this sports that I love doing. And it was sort of hard to come out the other end, but luckily I could play other sports. So I ended up playing tennis, and I played squash, and I played squash throughout college. And then when I graduated, I became an investment advisor and still play squash and sail during the summer and ski during the winter. So, um, although my life had changed and totally shifted from what I had planned, I look back on it as that was my experience, and you had to live through it and then move
Let's
forward.
go. Let's go a little bit in the area where you started to feel frustrated with the sports that you were choosing that were not exactly the ones that everybody is like supporting or giving the scholarship or something like that. How was that process inside of you? Like, okay, I want to pursue this, but at the same time, I see that nobody cares about this type of sport. How was it?
That's a great question. I went to a very large high school. We had 1,600 kids in my graduating class, so it was pretty large. And luckily, there was enough funding for a lot of different sports. So I think one of the things that happens when you're in a school that does a lot of sports, and I know that a lot of schools outside of the U.S. don't have sports in their schools, everything is extracurricular. Um, you are you're lucky because you have all your teammates around you. And when you're particularly in a high school and then a college team, there's a team room, there's a trainer down the hall, there's you're in this big gym with thousands of other people who are playing sports. So you don't feel that you're the only kid who's playing your sport. There's a lot of kids playing other sports all around you. So I was sort of shielded from that feeling until I got out of college. And all of a sudden, you're thrust out in the world, and you don't have that connection with your sports. And it's just, you have to start going out and finding that community. And that's where you start feeling the frustration. And it was very frustrating for me to find other people who played squash, who fenced, who sailed. I'm sort of an obnoxious guy. So I went to the local yacht club and I looked on the boards where they have notices of people who are looking for crew on their boats. So I wrote down those and I pursued that. And I ended up going from boat to boat as you do over the years. And while I'm still doing other stuff, I was still an investment advisor for 20 some odd years. And I was still playing squash, but I also wanted to pursue sailing. That was another low profile sport. And it's getting a little loud here. I don't know what's going on behind me, but I apologize for that. But so I started playing. I started sailing with one boat and then another larger boat, and then I sailed with another boat for about 10, 15 years. And then I got offers to sail on bigger boats. And bigger boats, I ended up sailing on maxi boats, which are 100-foot boats. So again, it's still a very small community. Sailing is probably 3 million people in the United States out of 360 million. And but they're all, of course, along the coasts or along places where there are water. And so you feel like it's a very small insular community. Even if you see if you see people where you are, and then you go on another regatta, match, or another competition 1,000 miles away, you go there, and because it's a very small community, you see people that you know there, and then you travel to another tournament or competition, and there they are again. So the great thing about lower profile sports is that because it's small, you end up seeing the same people over and over, and throughout your life, you see the same people over and over. So although it's frustrating, once you get into that community and you start building friendships, those friendships last a long time. And so I was sort of shielded again from that frustration of being in a lower profile sport because wherever I went, I tended to find people or gravitate to people who were also playing my sports, sailing on the same kind of boats, and doing the same kind of stuff I was doing.
I want to do some because you are talking about something very important here that we are always teaching, and maybe you have heard a lot when you are in business. But once again, this is believe in yourself, believe in your business, and this belief system that you created that you need to be surrounded by people that is like-minded, and that is going to help you to grow in every area that you are doing. And that is exactly what you are telling me. When you were in college, you were in the middle of a lot of people that were doing a lot of sports, so it was easy for you. Suddenly you get out of that and it's like, okay, why now is not that easy? So that is very important, because that is exactly what we are teaching also to every entrepreneur and business owner that is outside. Is like, you have to find a community that is like-minded, that is helping you, that is pushing you, that is improving everything that you are. And suddenly you are going to start to see that it's not that difficult, even when you continue doing the same stuff. So I know that you are talking a lot about sports, but how you can relate that message to the same thing that you were doing when you were doing investment uh, advisor?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it was, I changed jobs a few times over my careers, of course. And every time you do, you feel like the outsider and you step into a new role. And what I did in my career is I started off as a regular stockbroker and then an investment advisor. I took on some pseudo management jobs when I was in my first job with a company called Payne Weber, which is an international investment firm. It became UBS over the years, and I found that I was doing more sub-management jobs. I was the research coordinator. I was the private placements coordinator. I was doing speeches for between 10 and 1,000 people in places that um, were very corporate, very professional. And I came from a background. My dad was in sales and in management, and so I had that kind of experience there. And I was always a little bit ahead of my age group, and I always looked young. So I would step in front of people who were in their 50s and 60s and retiring or had retired, and I looked like I was 13 years old. And not really, maybe 20 years old. But people always said, one time, this is a good story. I was helping somebody with their investments, and I had done very well for about 3 or 4 years, and I hadn't met the man yet. So finally, he said, "I've got to meet you because you've done such a great job. I want to take you out to lunch." I said, "Okay, fine." And he comes in. This is after 3 or 4 years. I was at Payne Weber, and he walks into the lobby, and I hear my name called. I come up to the front desk, and this man's sitting there, and he looks like he's about 65, like he should. And I said, "I'm Greg Burton. Nice meeting you." And he said, "You must be Greg Burton Jr., right? You look like you're 12 years old." And I said, "No, I'm the guy you've been talking to for the past 3 or 4 years who just made you 20% per year on your money." So but that's been one of those things that was comical, but was something that sort of keeps you guessing as to what your perception is, how people perceive you in life. And I think that's something of that imposter complex that people always are concerned about. Like, do I really fit in? Am I good enough? Am I able to do this role? And I've seen that a lot in my career. There's been people who couldn't step up because they didn't see themselves as uh, competent and appropriate for that role. And I think it's something that you have to overcome. I think kids do when they get out into college. They're out of college, they get their first job, and there's that doubt, that self-doubt that is there, multiplied by the fact that people are doubting whether they can step up to that position. So I see that a lot.
Mm.
Shanei or CJ?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that, a lot of people, they shy away from themselves because they don't have the belief, and they lack the confidence. And uh, what would your advice be to someone who lacks the belief in themselves? How did you find that belief? Did you borrow the belief from somebody else? How did you get to that point?
Um, I had a good mentor. I had a few good mentors who said you could do it, step up, and that's one of the things that I do recommend is that when somebody is getting into a position, a new role, find someone who does believe in them and who wants to believe in them, and can guide them through meeting new people in the office they're in the company they're in, and someone who can say, I believe in Greg. Greg can step up to the plate here, and it also had you have if you have a good resume, you can show that off. And there's a term, there's a phrase that people use, um, fake it until you make it, and that's that's something that actually is it helps. You just look at yourself and you in the mirror and you say, I can do this, and then also to figure out what it would mean if you get to that higher level and you are successful at that position. For me, it was, for investment advisors in general, when they first start off, it's okay, I have to make this much commissions, I have to get this far, I have, what are my goals in making these commissions, and what does that mean, and how do I, all that around getting to the next level. And for me, it was like one of the signs of my getting to that next level was getting a good car. So I took a picture of the BMW that I wanted to get, and I hung it on my wall, and I said, "This is my goal, and these are the steps I have to do on an hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis." I had a book, a diary that had all the days on it, and I would go out 2 or 3 weeks and write down in that diary, "This is what I want to do this day, this day, this day, this day, this day." And
Yeah.
that was sort of adopted from my sports career because that's something that you have to do. You usually, if I want to get stronger, I say, okay, I'm going to bench press 150 pounds, then 155 pounds, then 160 pounds, all the way up to whatever level you want to get to. So setting little goals for yourself on a day-to-day basis, and then trying to make growth as you go along is really important. So that's exactly what I did. Throughout my career, I'd always say, this is what I have to do today, and these are the steps I have to do to get there to the next level tomorrow. And it's been that way throughout my life. I would set a goal and then take little steps to get there. As far as my believing in myself, I think it's um, if I were mentoring somebody to get there, I would be like every day, same thing. I believe in you. I think you can get there. I would love to see you get there. And how about doing this to take that step on today to get a little further? Make an extra couple calls, get meet a couple new people, and maybe you want to think about how you want to talk to your own self a week from now or a month from now. What do you want to tell yourself today from yourself a month ago and a month forward, and then see how that progresses.
Okay. It's amazing what a big impact sports have on a person. Because when I was in still in school in like preschool, um, and I started doing gymnastics, and that has taught me so much, even through business. You know, to press through, even if you think you can't, even if you think that your legs are gonna break, or you're gonna fall, or whatever. You just get back up and you just do it again. And I mean, it's such a nice game. Well, when you look back at it, it's such a nice game to play because you know that when you press through, you will persevere. And I mean that for me was really exciting.
Well, I actually did gymnastics for a couple of years also. And there are a couple of things in gymnastics that I think also lead to your future. First of all, the way you do it, the way you do gymnastics, you do um, headstand and then a handstand, and then you start doing flips and other stuff in gymnastics on floor exercise in particular. And you you take you have spotters, and you have to believe in your spotters. You have to believe your coach and your spotters are going to catch you when you do a flip, and you
Exactly.
start trusting other people that you otherwise wouldn't feel comfortable doing, but you know you have to do that in order to be able to do that because you're not going to do it on your own first time. And also, there are foam pads that you fall into or jump onto or do your flips above, and by having a soft landing pad helps a lot too. And I think that also comes back to how you do your business. If you know that the rest of your life is safe and you have a fallback and that you can take steps and try things, especially as an entrepreneur, you need to have either a comfort level with taking those bold steps, or a little bit of a aggressive attitude. You have to say, I believe in this that much that I'm going to go for it. And I have to say that's what I had to do. I went from having a very good career in my investment world to hanging up taking down my sign and going out and taking the steps to become where I am now, building a website for athletes. And it was very, very hard for me to believe in myself enough to do that. But I have to say, I had a vision that was so clear. It was sort of like a gift from God,
Yeah.
I hope. And I'm seeing it now where it does feel like it was, ordained, if I can use that. Um, I was, my investment world is mostly around tech portfolios, investing in AOL and Firefox and all the other Yahoo, all the other tech companies back in the 90s and in the early 2000s. They had gone through a big bust in the tech world, but I still was doing the right thing, and our investments were doing pretty well. One day I woke up, and I, at the time, I was helping coach a fencing team. I was coaching my kids' soccer team, and I was playing squash on the national level, and the nationals were coming up, and how to get the registration materials to sign up for the nationals. So I woke up, and my vision was this cloud in front of me, and on the left, I was reaching out into the cloud for Hungarian fencing swords, which are the best ones in the world, but they take 6 months to get usually. And then I reached out in front of me and I grabbed the soccer cleats for my kids' soccer team. And then I reached out to the right into this cloud and I grabbed the registration materials for the nationals for the squash tournament. And I had this vision and I said, what I just did is I reached out into the internet and I grabbed all these things right out of the internet sitting in my desk. And that was my epiphany. And I saw that the web was heading toward a direction that all that stuff was available. And so that was where I started. And so I realized that I had to make a big move, and that was my bold move, and I
Yeah.
had to believe in myself enough to get there. And I have to tell you, there have been times over the past 18 years where I was ready to give it all up and go back to the investment world that I could pick up anytime I wanted to. But I kept going toward where we got to the point where we were about to launch a site and apps in a couple of days. So
That's awesome. And how did you, when you felt like you wanted to give up, how did you get past that? How did you motivate yourself and kept going?
great question. Um, I have a couple of friends who totally believe in what I'm doing, and they're
Mhm.
athletic themselves, and they believe in me. They have seen me do well in other ventures and in the investment world. And whenever I was ready to hang it up, and things weren't going my way, and I wasn't getting the funding that I expected, they would be there and they would say, they take me by the back and push me back up and say, "Come on, you can do it. Come on." And also, I had investors already, and I felt I owed them the
Mhm.
getting up the next day and going for it. And then always things happen. Like today, if it's Thursday and I'm saying I'm gonna just give it up and go back to the investment world on Monday, that Friday, somebody would call out of the blue and say, "Hey, I was looking at your stuff and I really want to be involved." So it was like something was always getting in the way of my getting out of this. It was
Mm.
so interesting. Yeah, again, it was like there's something going on that is saying I got to keep going at this. So yeah,
Wow.
And tell me, Greg, when you move from the investment side, that at the end was like, okay, you have been doing this for so many years that you can be like, yeah, I can do other stuff, but I always can go back. How do you feel when you decided, like, okay, I am going to pursue this thing that you're going to tell us more about very soon? But before you started to create this new project, what motivated you to, okay, I am going to change everything that I have done until now because I want to like mix both things, because it's a part of investment what you are doing and a part of sports. So at the end you are mixing both passions, something that you have been doing all the time.
Yeah, and also the management side. I was managing an office of 100 people at the time, and so I had a lot of experience in doing that kind of stuff, and all those passions and all the knowledge that I had combined at once into one thing. But I tried to make them overlap as much as I could. I tried to do the investment thing and continue working on the beginnings of the website that I was going to do for sports. And after about a year or so, yeah, it was I was running out of time during the day, and I had to make a decision. And there was one day I was sitting at the university club in the city in the library. I was doing my investment thing on my laptop, and I was still trying to decide if I wanted to do this in the first place. And I looked across at the library shelves in front of me, and there were the census report from 2000. So I said, this thing's been bugging me, and I've really been thinking about it. And let's just see how many people are playing these lower profile sports: fencing, field hockey, squash, sailing. And again, I thought there were just a few people playing these sports. So I grabbed the census report, I opened it, and that's when the light went off. It was like I looked at the census report and I saw that there were about 12 million people who were playing baseball in the United States. I kept going a little further and I saw that 14 million people were mountain biking. Now, that didn't make sense at all. So I kept reading. And then I read basketball had about 18 million people playing basketball. And they were already back then, this is in 2000, had 20 million people playing soccer. And you never saw soccer on TV back in 2003. And so I all of a sudden realized that what I thought was exactly the opposite of what was really the truth. That only 20% of the people who are playing sports in the United States are playing the sports you see on TV. The other 80% are playing the lower profile sports, all these other ones. And I did a presentation that is on my YouTube video that I just put up a couple days ago, yesterday, and has this little ball. And this little ball are those five mainstream sports, quote unquote mainstream sports: baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and golf. And then there's this big ball that has everything from fencing to field hockey to soccer to squash to pickleball, which is a new thing these days, padel, and all other sports that are in the United States. And 80% of us are playing those lower profile sports. 80% of the money that goes into sports is going into these low profile sports. And I realized back in 2003 that everybody else is missing the boat, that ABC and NBC and CBS are all wrong, and that these other low profile sports is where everybody's passion is, where everybody's money is being spent, where everybody's time is being devoted. And I realized that not only do I need this, but there are 220 million people in the United States who would rather be watching their sports and their passions on TV than watching these other sports that really are just spectator sports, but not so many people play.
Yeah.
So that also was that epiphany that I have to do this. So
And for me, this is very, very interesting because even for everybody that is listening to us today, you
hopefully,
can see how a successful entrepreneur that has been doing different things in different areas, all the thinking behind, and that's what I see, Greg. That I love when you are sharing, because you are like, okay, you are studying, how you are looking at numbers, you start to understand how everything works, and how that, like, okay, my passion can be something different, I can start to do something about this, I can start to help the things that are going on here in the States. So I see that with you, the way you have started to connect once again the dots between college time when you were like doing all this type of sports, and suddenly it started to, after I don't know how many years between that and the investment world, to now I can start to help them again and start to work together and start to put them together. And once again, the same thing that I was telling at the beginning is like, what happens when you are surrounded by people that is thinking like you are going to start to grow, you are going to start to become better. It's going to be easier. I am not saying that it's easy what you are doing, but it's easier when you are surrounded by people that it's thinking like you, and it's like lifting you if you are like trying to get out. you know
Yeah, it definitely helps to have people who are like-minded, and that is what I felt I had to give back to the sports community because I was, it was a gift to be in a high school that had the kind of sports that I wanted to play. It was a gift to be recruited to college for a sport, and then it's even more of a gift to find a sport that I could keep playing after I injured my back, and all while being in college. And then when I got out, it was a gift that I could find that I happened to be in a place that had sailing and that was close by to skiing and other stuff that I love doing, and that had squash courts around it. Because frankly, in the United States, there aren't that many squash courts, and they're in the main cities. They're really you won't find that squash courts in Idaho or Montana, especially back 20 years ago. And so I was lucky to be in a place where that was, and I was lucky to have people around me who wanted to help me get better. And I think that one of the parts about being a part of a community and understanding that you're part of this much larger community is that you get to a point where you have to give back, where it's your responsibility to give back to the people coming up. And I saw that in all the personalities of the people in different sports, they wanted to do that. They got to a point where they were at, if not the top of their games, at least they have gone through a growth period, and they got to a point where they were very comfortable and have accomplished a lot. So then they felt like there were a lot of people who pulled them up to a point where they were good, and they wanted to start pulling up other people to the point where they were good. And I think that's really something that we owe to our community is to give back.
That's very good team spirit there. I love it.
Yeah.
Greg, I'm wondering how much of this desire to give back. You talk about community and the importance of having people surrounding you. You mentioned it very briefly earlier on in the show today about after your fencing career came to an abrupt stop and just feeling like your dream had been pulled away. You talked about facing depression and you just brisked by it. I'm wondering if that was something how deep that went and how important community was for you at that point, and how much of that has informed you wanting to reach out and to bring, I guess, an experience, a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment to others in what you do through all the coaching you've done through your various transitions. You've been successful in several areas. So I'm just wondering how much that informed that. If maybe you could speak to that.
That's a great question. I think that I was thinking about it a couple of days ago. Actually, I was thinking about like how it felt. They say when you go through trauma, there's a wall that goes up from
Yeah.
the past before the trauma, and then your new life after the trauma, and then there's this dark period in the middle of it where you try to reconcile the life before and the life after, and where you are and what tools you still have, and as you go forward, how you use those tools. And sometimes it requires a much greater fortitude than I had to. I was able to keep going in sports and use other parts of my personality and other gifts that I have. And I imagine someone, and this is where I was thinking about it. I was talking to somebody who was disabled, and we're in the middle of bringing a lot of disabled sports onto UB Sports. And these people have gone through times when they were totally healthy and had their limbs and they're all working and everything. And all of a sudden, there was an explosion and they lost their legs, or they lost one leg, or they lost an arm, and they had to start over. And there were these wounded warriors who are now had to rebuild their lives from an amazing trauma, much worse than I had. And I think one of the things that I don't want to say helped, but helped me get through it was the fact that what I had was surmountable. I could keep going. And I was in school and I was smart. So I had my intelligence to fall back on. My family was very strong in that. My friends were very strong. I didn't go through a depression where I needed drugs or anything else to help me, or actually even a psychologist. I was really just able to um, have my friends and my community pull me through it. And I think if I didn't have my friends who had seen me before and after and had helped me get over it and helped me get um, see the other side of that quickly, I don't think I would have had as good a recovery as I did.
Okay.
So it's a in looking back at it, I see that I really did go through a time where it was dark and um, I was nowhere close to 100% on the other things that I was doing. And luckily, I managed to get through. That's all I can say is that I struggled. I had to rebuild, and sometimes you only have yourself to look at for support. I was lucky to have a lot of friends around me and my family and my other sports and the other teams that I could join to get through. So,
That's another interesting point I think that you bring up, actually, Greg, is that, community was just there. And I wonder how much we actually take that for granted. Because you also mentioned the difficulty that you faced after leaving, post-secondary education when you went into the world and had to look for those communities. Did you find during that time there was a shift while you were looking for it, like as an in-between stage, that there was perhaps a sense of um, a sense of a lower esteem or maybe a lower experience in that time as well? I just want to kind of unpack that a little bit as well.
I think we all do. I think we all experience a point where you went from, and I think it happens when you go from in the United States. There's junior high, which goes up to ninth grade, and then there's high school, that's 10th to 12th, and then you go to college, and that's 4 years there or more, and then you go out to the real world, and it's another. I look at it like you start off as a guppy, and at the end you become a shark, and you're a little fish in a big pond, and all of a sudden you're the big fish in the pond, and all of a sudden you end up going to the lake, and then you go into the ocean. Every time you do, you're that little fish, and you're prey basically,
Yeah.
instead of the guy gobbling everybody else. And it's it's a growth, and you have to accept the fact that you're going to be a guppy sometimes, and it's going to take you a while to get your fins under you in this case, and to start being able to um, feel comfortable in that new place, and then become strong, and then like the big man on campus until you graduate, and then you're not anymore. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
And really, what you are saying that about the community that helped you during those moments, what I see is you have been always looking to be part of a community. So that's why it's not like, okay, I had a family and some people doesn't have them, but it's exactly what is happening because you are looking for that all the time. That is why you need that support. It's not something that suddenly happens. You have been doing that all the time and all your life, and that's why we are focusing a lot on this because that is exactly what you are trying to create with your new website, is to start to create a community that people is like-minded, that is doing exactly this, and that you are going to be supporting other guys that are doing these sports that maybe are not in the mainstream and nobody knows that it's important. So if you see at the end the question that we have been doing to you and the way you have been answering is exactly what you are trying to do now, and it's talking about community. You see how important that is in every area of your life. You have been with different struggles, completely amazing struggle, that even mental health, that you know that right now is huge because of this COVID and all the stuff that it's happening in the world. But at the end, what you are telling us is, for me, the community has been the one that has been helping me all the time in the different areas, and being with like-minded people that is like, okay, I don't believe in myself, but he's believing in myself, so I have to take it out on, and I have to do something amazing because they are believing in me. So that is huge.
Also, it's one of the things that I wrote this article about what I'm doing with UB Sports, and I feel bad about plugging it all the time, but
Hmm.
this is a it's an outcropping of who I am and what I do, and what my belief system is about the community. And I think whenever you take up a sport, the first is something that we probably did back when we were cavemen, is you look for a community. If you take up fencing, for example, all of a sudden you have to find, that's a pretty strange sport, and you have to then actively go out and find a community that wants to fling swords at each other. If you decide you want to be a good cyclist, you have to go find a cycling club. You have a bicycle, you can buy the bike, but then what? Then you have to learn how to be a better cyclist. You have to learn. You have to get into a community or into a club that likes cycling, and then you have to find routes and follow them and find out like how they do it and how they get better. And then you have to find people who again want to give back and coach you and mentor you as you go along. I think that's um, it's really really important that you can wrap a community around you and learn, get on the shoulders of other people and see higher. And that's, something that they always talk about in psychology and in sports, is that you take the lessons that someone else has learned, and then you go and take the next steps and go further and grow higher than they could ever.
Yeah, it sounds like that's something that you've really done, as you've had community around you that have helped you to believe in yourself. And then that's catapulted you to believe in, your skills in business, to believe in your opportunities for other sports. Well, you've had your hand at a few, which is amazing. And what I'm wondering is like now how, as you go forward, it sounds like you're really pouring in through UB Sports, that this is how you're pouring in to others so that they too can have that belief in themselves, so that can impact and spread to the rest of their life. I wonder if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Well, it's not only that I'm pouring that presence of mind to other people and to give that. I'm actually giving people the ability to do that. Whenever we take on a new sport, let's say we take on pickleball, I reach out to people who are at the top of that game, and I say, here's an opportunity where you can help put the proper resources in front of everybody who plays that sport that come onto UB Sports, and you can help these people from day one. You can communicate with them and say, "This is a great sport. It's really great that you're joining it. I really think that you'll have a lot of fun doing it. Whether or not you get really great at it, you're going to have a great time learning about it, like I did. And it took me 5 years to get where I am. I'd love to, tell you that you can take what I've learned and go those 5 years and get better. I think that's every coach and every person who's gotten to a good level, if they have uh, um, the right character, they're not looking for themselves anymore. They're now wanting to give back, and they want to help the next people coming up. And that's, I think, part of you as a part of community. That's what you want to do, and that's primal. I think that's something that's born into us, and born into any. You see dogs doing the same thing. Cats do the same thing. They are taking their puppies and their kittens and they're saying, "Here, this is how you walk. This is how you go to the, go to the food. This is how you eat the food. This is how you catch the bird. However it is." There's always someone who's got more experience and more knowledge, and they're going to help you get to the next level if that's their personality. And I think that's part of our breeding. That's what we do.
Mm. Amazing.
So, and I really love everything that we are talking here, because that is exactly what we are doing with this program, and well, with everything that we are doing together with Shanei and CJ. It's about creating a community that believe in you, that believe in people, that it really wants to improve their lives and the lives of others. So that for me connects very well with what you are doing, Greg. I know that when we talked a few weeks ago, we were talking exactly about that. Like, wow, this is amazing how you are creating this community to help people and sports guys to be like mentally and like growing in the areas of their expertise. And that is exactly, once again, what we are doing in our every workshop that we are doing, every challenge that we are doing, every program that we are doing every Wednesday. It's about creating a community of people that believe in themselves, that believe that they can do it. And if you don't believe in yourself, you can borrow our belief in you. And that's exactly what we want to do. And and tell me a little bit, Greg, in your side for the next, like, what are you believing? Like, okay, right now you have a little baby in front of you that is almost, I don't know if it's already a newborn or is becoming a newborn very soon. But what are your dreams about that? What do you see in the future? What are the belief systems that you are working on, even you you to, because that baby is very huge. What I see is going to be very big. So how are you working on yourself to, like, okay, I need to grow and I have to grow even myself with all the things that I have done, but it's coming something bigger than me.
Yeah.
Well, good question. Um, as far as I went through a lot of time doing this already, and I was piece by piece, grain by grain, I've been building who I am and my knowledge base and my belief in what's happening. Again, I've had times when I was about to throw in the towel. This is it. I'm going back to the investment world, and I think getting through that, every time you get through a period where you have self-doubt, you come out the other side with a little more character, a little more fortitude, and a little more belief in yourself. And there is you're talking about exactly the same thing that I struggled with for every time I made a change. And you step into a new managerial role that you were working as manager one place and somebody hires you to be a manager the next place, and you step in and you're always saying, I don't know if this is too much for me. I don't know if these people are going to like me. I don't know if I have the skill sets that this new job needs. And you find out when you get there, you have people who believe in you, and you believe in yourself. And over iterations of this, you end up knowing that you can handle pretty much anything. So I know that I'm there personally. I know that I'm ready for the next challenges that are coming up here. I know that I've found people who can uh, take on the parts of um, this job, the next part of this experience that can do things better than I can. I think it's another part is that you have to be very comfortable with delegating and feeling that you're not giving away um, too much control. That you have to say, I don't want control of this. This is something that somebody else can do a better job of than I can.
Yeah.
And that's happened a lot with technology. I have been able to write in 5 or 6 codes, uh, back in languages they call them, um, and this is back before they even had monitors for computers. It was back when you put in like Fortran cards and COBOL cards and tapes with holes in it, and when you put the program into this massive computer that's bigger than a house, you get back. This is back in the 70s. You get back either the results of the program you wrote, or you get back syntax error line 134, and you have to go back to line 134 and figure out what the problem with the syntax was before you can get the answer. You have to take another couple hours or days before you get the answers back, and
Mm.
it was so arcane 40 years ago, you cannot believe. And now I that was 20 languages ago. So I had to find people who now can handle the new language and write in the code that's being written right now, and that code can communicate to current web technology and current computers and iPads and phones, and that's the progress in technology has just been insane. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we didn't have cell phones. Then the web came along, all of a sudden we can communicate with each other around the world. It's just amazing. But certainly, it's not. It's something I feel very good about handing off to somebody else, and I feel very good about leading other people in what they need to do. And it's not so much what they do on a day-to-day basis; it's the results they get by putting that
Mm.
stuff together, and that's how you judge them.
So we're getting almost to the end of the show. Greg, how people can connect with you if they are looking, okay, yes, I am in the States and I know that you are planning to launch this globally later. Right now, you are starting with the States. But what are the things that you are looking for right now for your business that maybe you need some help and maybe somebody from the audience could be like thinking, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to learn more about that, how they can connect with you.
Thank you for asking. There are a number of challenges we look to have as we go forward, and some of them are exciting challenges. Other ones are ones that are just frustrating. Currently, we are in the middle of raising $3 million for the launch and marketing of the company. That will take us to cash flow positive in 2 years. By that time, we'll have over 100 sports on our site. We expect to have about a million people on the site in 2 years and probably well over 5 million people in 5 years on the site. If you look at, we're thinking about 5 million people on the site in 5 years. Instagram went from 0 to 3 billion people on the site in 5 years. So we're thinking very small by thinking 5 million, but that still gives us a company that's worth between $500 million and $1 billion. So people who decide to invest with us now are probably going to make lots and lots of money. But so we're looking for $3 million right now. That's one of our challenges, and probably the biggest one that hits me in the face every day when thinking about keeping our developers paid and our team built and continuing to build that team and all the stuff we have to do around it. But also, we're looking for people who are Olympic athletes, pro athletes, coaches who want to, again, give back to their communities. And each one of these is a community. Fencing is a community, field hockey is a community,
Yeah.
squash is a community, skiing is a community, sailing is a community. And people who get to the tops of their games, I would love to speak with them if they want to help give back to their communities and help build those communities on UV Sports. So I think that's the two places that I'm looking for right now that would make our lives so
And
much
the
better.
best
And
place is that they connect with your website, right?
you're right. That's ubsports.com and the apps that are called UB Sports. ubsports.com will be officially launched next week. Our soft launch is coming up in 2 days, and then the apps will be launched next week. They can always call me at my phone number. I don't know if I can give it, but it's you can cut it out if you can't. It's
No, it's
No,
plus
okay.
you can
one
give it.
631-416-0003. And I'm at Greg at ubsports.com, GREG at ubsports.com.
Awesome. One final thing that you want to say, like, okay, if people like were part of this and part they couldn't listen for any reason, something like a phrase or something that you want to tell them, like, okay, if you don't didn't hear anything about this, or if you want to remember one thing about everything that I have talked about, believing myself, believing my business, believing everything that I am doing, what is that word that you will say that this is the phrase that I want you to remember?
Um, if you can find a community to surround yourself with, do so. Make sure that you trust the people that you are trusting and believe in your gut. I think your gut knows much more than we give it credit for a lot of times because our mind tries to get in the way of what we feel. And I think it's really important that we have a trust circle, people that you can trust and people that you can lean on to help you with the wisdom that you don't have yet. And wisdom's a lot more important than uh, it's not something that you are usually you're not born with it, but you build it over time. And then when you don't have it, you can borrow somebody else's wisdom. I think that comes in
Mm,
really handy.
mm. Awesome. So everyone, thank you, Greg. This was really amazing. I know that we're going to be following up with you to know what happened with the soft launch and hard launch and every launch that you are doing. That is awesome. Thank you, Shanei and CJ, for being here. Also, this has been amazing. We are really looking for the community that you are going to be creating, and also if you are looking for a business community that is helping you to grow in different areas like messaging, like lead generation, like strategy, like mindset, we are really ready for you. Join in one of our workshops, the challenge that we are going to be having. You are more than welcome to write to us. We are very easy to find also. CJ Kusler is in every place. Shanei Born is in every place also, in all the social media, and myself. It's easy. So just look for us and you're going to find us. This show can be also heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you all.